Please be seated. We're gathered here for a mayoral reception. Mayoral receptions are very special occasions. Today is a very special occasion for me because it's my first mayoral reception since my colleagues put confidence in me to be mayor back on the 29th of June. And indeed, it's the first mayoral reception since the onslaught of the pandemic in March 2020. So it's all the more special. Mayoral receptions are an opportunity for me as first citizen of Clonmel, representing all the citizens of Clonmel. You know, it's an opportunity for my colleagues as well to represent really, really special occasions of outstanding achievement and so on. And we certainly have a special occasion in this room tonight, the 40th anniversary of your overseas service as peacekeepers, as I said, from October 1980 to April 1981. The one message that I want to give here tonight is, on the one hand, to thank you for your service, but please leave here and say to yourselves, be very, very proud to have made that contribution in terms of peacekeeping in particular, but as I said, also in terms of your wider membership of the Defence Forces. So thank you. Come back to my core message for the third time. Be very, very proud. It's my pleasure to accord this mayoral reception to you on the 40th anniversary of your overseas service back in 1980, 1981. And I'll now call on my colleague, Councillor Ambrose, also the last Cathaoirleach of Tipperary County Council, to say a few words. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and colleagues and retired Colonel Duffy and my own good friend and former colleague Jim Cahill, and former platoon commander, and Sean Crotty, of course, chairman of Sean Cosgrove, who of course chairman of Ionba House, and indeed extinguished all the retired members of River Umperlona. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for according this reception. I remember Jim and I last year were in touch when I was mayor, and we were hoping obviously for the 40th that we would have this reception in November, but of course COVID-19 dictated otherwise. So I just want to thank you for just the information that we have in respect to that particular mission. And in honouring you all here today, we're also honouring all of those who have served abroad, not alone representing Ireland, but also as ambassadors of Clonmel, because having left from here, Keegan Barracks. And we're delighted that, albeit Keegan Barracks itself closed in March 2012, we're also delighted that our connection and tradition with the Army continues, and as Shawnee would know, as late as lately, we all attended the annual mass for the deceased members of the Defence Forces, and indeed have enjoyed, of course, also invites up to the Ionba House as well. And I spoke to Shawnee earlier as well in relation to Keegan Barracks, the future life of Keegan Barracks as well. But we want to thank you, and we want to thank you for your service and dedication. And indeed, as the Mayor has said, that when we give somebody a reception here, we do so the entirety of the council on behalf of the people of the Clonmel district. So it's not just on our own behalf. We are very grateful to the commitment and dedication that you have given in service. I'm delighted to be here today on this very special occasion to mark the 40th anniversary, and we're very proud of you all, of the Nairi Kudiale Kurimba.
I now call on Councillor Pat English.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, fellow councillors, Colin Duffy, platoon commander Jim Cahill, and members of the platoon. I suppose it's unique in itself that you're all still alive. 40 years is a long time in anyone's two life sentences, as they call it. I'd just like to pick out one person here that had only been there, the man with the most medals in the Knesset. But Ned has served the local scout troop here in Clonmel for the last couple of years. He's given great service there, and I just like to acknowledge that. And Sean Cosgrove is there as well, and the members of Post 24. The service that you've given this town over the last number of years has been fantastic since the sad closing of the barracks here in town. And we've just, I'm delighted to hear, to acknowledge the fantastic work you've done over those years. So thanks very much.
I now call on Councillor Recce Coy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, Lieutenant Colonel, Jim, colleagues, and honoured guests. Just to concur, I suppose, what has already been said, I'm delighted that it's a bit of history in itself today, that it's the first Mayoral reception since the COVID hit us all so severely. And it was a wonderful way, I suppose, for the public representatives to pay tribute to various organisations in the town, voluntary groups, and so on, and to commend you for the huge work that you yourselves have done, because you could always appreciate going overseas many years ago. There was a big challenge, and maybe for your families still back here in Clonmel, it probably wasn't an easy thing to do. Sean, in there, you know, you've played such an active role, Patrick's Day parades, which we haven't seen for a while now, but you were always very active participants in that. And I know you have the railway station above that you do work in that all the time. So it's a great way of keeping the presence of the army here in Clonmel, despite the fact, you know, that the barracks is no longer with us. But I think in Clonmel we always have that link with the kicking. And just to say once again to thank the Mayor for recording this reception today, and wish your organisation all the very best in the year ahead.
And finally, Councillor John Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mayor and colleagues. I really want to reiterate everything that has been said by my colleagues and by the Mayor in the opening remarks. I think this is a great occasion, the 40th anniversary of this platoon and their service to UNIFIL, which your reputation goes before you in this regard. We were very aware of the UNIFIL dispatches from Ireland out to the Lebanon at that time. And I remember at that time thinking of your own career choices. I remember being impressed with and struck by the bravery of the men that went there to do a very tough job in a very volatile situation between Israel, the whole Middle East and Arabs and everything thrown into the mix there, and what you had to cope with. And it was an exciting but a very serious career choice for you. But it's a real honour to be in the presence of people that serve their country. Look at their medals on your chest there in some cases. The Army have a very proud history here in Ireland, and I think that's always recognised by dignitaries who come to Ireland. So thank you, Mayor, for allowing us the opportunity to honour this platoon, the 90mm anti-tank. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to address you. Thank you.
Thank you. Retired Colonel Shea Duffy.
It's an honour for me to be here today. I want to thank the Mayor and the Clonmel Borough Council for inviting us here today. It's an honour not just for me personally, but it's an honour for Jim and his platoon, wonderful men from Clonmel, a town famous in Irish military history. So it's a great honour for us, but it's not just an honour for us in the platoon, it's also an honour for the Defence Forces. The Defence Forces is always honoured when it's recognised publicly by our elected representatives, because we feel that while we are in service, we often feel that our elected representatives who are also in service are not adequately recognised for the service they do. Right as up, Jim and his merry men lived in South Lebanon, an area which was absolutely beset by major confrontation. Israel had invaded Lebanon in 1978. It subsequently invaded Lebanon for the second time after we left. Now, it had nothing to do with the fact that we had left. We weren't so good at the game that we kept the Israelis out. But in 78, when they invaded, they took over part of South Lebanon. Israel occupied up to the Litani River. Now, that little plan didn't work out for them because they eventually had to leave there and they had to withdraw from there. But when we were in South Lebanon, the Litani area, up to the Litani River, was the UN area of operations. So from the Israeli border to the Litani River was the UN area of operations. It was occupied on behalf of Israel by a Shia militia are a militia in South Lebanon who caused us all sorts of stress, killed our soldiers. There were direct Israeli support in the area. And Jim literally lived under, this platoon, literally lived under a hill where this militia had domination of our area. So this was an area where in the evenings and at night you had to be extremely careful where you moved. There was always the danger that somebody could open fire on a village, or some of the people in the village would open fire on the posts which the Israeli militia had in our area. So there was constant stress, constant concern. And Jim's team were there. They did our job for 6 months. Unfortunately, we managed to lose 3 soldiers. One, a chap called Marshall, died of natural causes, tragically. But the other 2 soldiers were killed a matter of days before we left the area of operations. They were killed on the 28th of April, 1981. Kevin Joyce and a chap called Doherty from Donegal, very sadly. Jim's team and Sean Scanlon's team, Sean had a company of warriors, all from most from the Southern Command, not all, but they were part of our battalion. It was commanded by Stephen Murphy from County Clare, from Tulla, a former hurler, played for Clare. Died not tragically, but unfortunately after an illness in January this year. A very distinguished soldier, much loved by the soldiers, and he in turn loved the soldiers and expected his officers to behave and to behave beyond the call of duty at all times in matters concerning those soldiers. And I hope we managed to do that. So I thank you very much again, Mayor, for this evening. I'd just like, if your council members will bear in mind, over 40 missions. And it's not by chance that we have this great influence in peacekeeping, not only in troops on the ground, but also in the key making areas. Now in Brussels, we have significant military people influencing major decisions. I was privileged myself to be to command the European Union monitoring mission in Bosnia, and the same applies. We have this tremendous influence, not only in the United Nations, but in Europe. And that doesn't happen by chance. We have a wonderful organisation, a wonderful training establishment and organisation, an outstanding military college, and we need your support. Thank you very much.
Yeah, look, I really want to thank Colonel Duffy, retired Colonel Duffy, for bringing to life what we have in the room here tonight in terms of the events and that brief on peacekeeping. So I'm going to give the final word over to you, Jim, platoon commander, and maybe just to sum up today's events and maybe put a bit more context. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank the elected members of the Borough Council for your very kind words. Let me assure you, we feel very proud here today. We're really honoured by being afforded this mayor reception by you, Mr. Mayor, and for the support of the elected representatives here. Now, these gentlemen here that you refer to, they're excellent soldiers. I have to say that, and I mean it most sincerely. And I was extremely fortunate to have such hard-working, loyal and efficient men around me to help us to fulfil our mission out there. These gentlemen here made many sacrifices whilst they were in the Defence Forces. And whilst they were overseas, there were some lonely times, but at the same time, there were some very happy times and some very fulfilling times. I would like to remember some people here that Colonel Duffy referred to, and some people closer to us that passed away during our trip. Paddy Murphy went on 2 weeks annual leave, and whilst he was on annual leave, we got some very sad news from home that his mum, Bridie, had passed away unexpectedly. Now, in those days we didn't have mobile phones, iPhones, iPads. Communication was quite poor. We were unable to contact Paddy to give him the sad news, and we had to wait until he got back from his holidays. a very tough time for a young man at the time. Also, Mr. Mayor mentioned 3 brothers, the McGarrys. There's 2 of them here today, Pat and Tony. They had a 3rd brother serving in Kicking Barracks who passed away tragically whilst we were on that trip abroad. And I would like to remember those people today that have passed on. Thank you again for this magnificent honour. We really, really appreciate it. We're sort of gobsmacked by this today. It is a huge honour to us, something that I know all of us will carry to the grave. And may I, on behalf of my colleagues, wish you, Mr. Mayor, your elected members, and your families every good wish in the future.